Hey folks, John Kelly, welcome back. Law enforcement life coach with your Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Sitting down with Mike Laidler. You say, Mike Laidler? Yeah, dude's been around in the game for quite a while. Started back in Tallahassee PD, Border Patrol, Corrections, Federal Bureau of Prisons. And if that's not enough, he's adding value to the first responder community. He's an author, Greatness Beyond the Badge, the 3 key principles for self-awareness, a keynote speaker. Mike is just giving back with the goal of making you better, right? And so without further ado, help me in welcoming Mike Laidler to the Law Enforcement Life Coach, Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Mike, it's great to see you.
Hey, John, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I know this is something I always look forward to, like you said, just adding value to our community, because I think there's just never enough of us that are able to do it. So every chance I get, I love to be on shows like yours.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. Yeah, there's a lot of people taking from the cup, man, but not a lot of people filling it up. And you're one of those guys that fill that cup up. Hey, so Mike, we've been talking for a little bit before we officially got rolling. Absolutely. Here. Just for the listener, I kind of touched on some of your assignments, and when I mean touched on them, I kind of breezed through them. Give the listener a little bit of background on you and bring us up to present day, because I want to get into the book. I want to get into your speaking. I want to get into the programs that you've developed that are adding value for our first responders. But before we do all that, let's talk a little bit about the past, if you don't mind.
Oh, no. And John, I think it's important because it's always good to establish credibility. That's kind of what we've learned in law enforcement. You got to kind of know where the person comes from to know where they're going next. And I take that wholeheartedly, because the things I've been through in my life, I can't get rid of them. And I don't want to get rid of them. I want to keep looking at them, reflecting on them, growing from them, because you never know what experience somebody else might go through. So for me, born and raised in Miami, Florida, to a single mother, I didn't have a father throughout my life. Don't get me wrong. He was around the corner, but not really there. So a lot of things I had to do, I had to learn on my own, as far as being a man, being a father, just, being a business owner to some of the things I'm at now. But I can remember times growing up, like wondering, well, what am I going to do next? Or what's going to happen? And I didn't really have that guidance. So I became a police officer at 19. Then I transitioned to Border Patrol. Then I transitioned to corrections. And a lot of that was kind of shooting from the hip, so to speak, because I didn't have direct guidance. And I'm not saying it wasn't offered, but I don't think it was. And it wasn't really until 2021 where I actually sat down and started to look at all my experiences that I had. And I was like, you know what? These all are part of my growth. These are all stepping stones to getting me to where I'm at today. And I started thinking about how I can make them to where I can give them to others, because, you being trainers and stuff like that, you do that naturally, as far as like for your job, maybe as a father, as a spouse. But I was like, I need to be more focused. I need to be more dedicated to bringing this value to others. So as I started to study more, I started to figure out what we needed in law enforcement, because I realized it was actually a big gap. And at the time, it wasn't a lot of emphasis. It was there, but when I looked for it, it was a stretch. Now, being in this mental wellness, this mental health, this self-awareness realm now, there's actually a lot of resources out there.
Oh God, it's never ending, bro. It's never ending.
It's never. And John, when I started to realize that, I was like, what if I've been doing the last 18 years of my law enforcement career to where I wasn't even utilizing some of this? And it took me time to start studying to realize it's there. Like it wasn't like somebody wasn't like bringing it, providing it. I mean, we've had EAP, Employee Assistance Program, forever, but I started to actually look at it, and I was like, oh, this has been around for a while.
Mike, it's hiding in plain. Look at just use the analogy of physical fitness. Is there any shortage of home workout equipment, facilities, gyms inside of our stations, precincts, and facilities, nutritional information, dietitians on staff? The resources are abundant.
Correct.
So that's not the issue, is it?
No, it's just applying yourself to do it, implementing and executing. And like I said, it took me till the summer of 2021 to realize that I had a greater purpose in what we do in this community. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie to people. It came out of almost those like epiphany mindsets. Like
Sure.
you wake up, you're just like, I need to do better. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Like I said, when I started to look at it, I'm like, okay, how many of us are in that same category? And that's when I started to make that shift even more aggressively to self-awareness. Because I was like, if we're not defining who we are as people, if we're not understanding why we should be better, and we're not understanding a path to greatness, we're going to find ourselves going 20, 25, 30 years in our uniforms, not knowing who we are. And
Let me
then when
ask you a
we
question, Mike.
retire, nothing. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. How much of a role, it just came to me like, we end up telling people that they're okay, that they're perfect just the way they are.
Mhm.
Like that's a common, like,
It feels good. Yeah.
yeah, you love, if you're 100 pounds overweight, just love you for being you. If you're not developing mentally, emotionally, well, that's okay. Just, embrace you. And I think that's like a misguided out that we've given people. What are your thoughts on that, man?
I think it's an easy answer.
Right?
It's an easy way to say believe in yourself, but it's not an easy way to say execute on your goals and your dreams.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest that is literally the biggest difference in that. Like, obviously, as a optimistic person that wants to give constructive feedback, I'm gonna say, hey, continue to be good. But what does that actually mean? And how do you take yourself to that next level? Because a lot of people can, once again, they just don't know how to, and they don't realize what's there for them. So when you're looking at different chances and you're good, well, what does that actually mean? Like, how do you actually make yourself great? And you're right. I've heard it before. Like, oh, you even speaking, oh, you had a great press or you had a good presentation. Well, what made it good? And it's like the person's like,
Right.
what made it bad? Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't really bad. I was thinking, and I'm thinking in my head, well, when I was standing up there on stage, I knew I skipped at least 3 things.
Right. Right.
I mean,
Right.
I know it wasn't great because as a speaker, you realize what your flaws are.
Of course you do.
However, yeah, and it's tough to look at. So for me, I could say that sometimes it's the easy answer to say, "Hey, you're good. You're just great. You're just good as who you are." But I don't think that's giving a person a roadmap to be better than
Yeah. I think you're right.
what they perceive.
That's bullshit. It's really bullshit, man. It pacifies, you know, and at the end of the day, it's not about being perfect, it's about being better.
Yeah.
About being better. And that's like your area, man. That's your forte, helping people become better. So you had this career in law enforcement. You're still involved heavily, and you've got your business and you're speaking around the country. Tell us about Dubai. You were in Dubai this year speaking at a wellness conference. Tell us about that if you don't mind. I think that's wonderful.
So before I even say how I got to Dubai or what I did in Dubai, it's kind of like, how did I get there? And when I tell you this, and I want you to know, John, I want everybody to know, anybody can go there. Meaning that there's opportunities for all of us as speakers, instructors, teachers, whatever title you want to give yourself, facilitator, coach, to get to places like Dubai, because there's conferences everywhere. There's training organizations everywhere. There's the HIDAs in the world. There's all the police academies. There's somewhere where you can teach. But for me, one of the things I've learned as a entrepreneur is you have to be aggressive in seeking out opportunities, because unless you're the John Bostains or the Lieutenant Grossmans or the Kevin Gilmartins now of the world, the Gordon Grahams that's been around for 10, 20 years.
Yeah. Nobody's knocking down your door, brother.
Yeah, no, and trust me, I can tell you, I mean, I'm sure if we backtrack people like Gordon Graham's history, I'm sure his first 5 to 10 years, it wasn't like, hey, everybody come to see me. But now, I mean, Gordon Graham, I've seen Gordon Graham in person. Yeah. I spoke at the same conference, and it's not like he's like 25 years old, guys. He's probably 60s, if not 70s.
Been in the game for a little bit.
Yeah, he's been in the game, so he's not like he just walked on the stage and he made it happen. But what I've learned early in my push as an entrepreneur is you got to be aggressive. You got to look for opportunities. You got to reach out to people. It's weird, but It's part of business, it's part
Wait a
of
minute.
marketing.
So,
It's just like
so you and I just didn't meet walking down the sidewalk, right? Or at a cocktail. We connected, we reached out, and we're having a conversation. And that's what you got to do if you want to be successful.
Everything's marketing. I don't know if you've been to Vegas before, John, or out of country or some of these foreign countries, but you ever go to Vegas, you see those guys on the side of the street, they're trying to sell you anything they can. We need to hustle like they hustle.
Yeah, I'm not worried
careers.
about the guys trying to sell me stuff, brother, man.
Yeah.
I'm worried about gotta go out. I gotta get Vegas, not a good analogy. You're messing me up now, man.
but think about those guys on the side, like anywhere, or let's say you come off a cruise ship.
Yeah.
The aggression that they have to sell, that's how we have to be when we're trying to push. Respectfully, of course, but we have to be looking at it in a sense of like, hey, this might be my last day to build my business or to be around. Why don't I push as hard as I can? So for me, Dubai, it took me time to realize the conference was out there. No one told me, but as my research went, I discovered there was something called the World Police Summit. And I looked at the criteria. They had a call for speakers. I put in for it. And thankfully, God willing, I actually got a chance to go speak there. I got my proposals accepted. But once I was there, if you have not been to Dubai,
I'm gonna try to. That's gonna be on my my goal list in 2024, brother. It just inspired me to do that.
Yeah, if you get a chance to go to Dubai, it is one of those things that they set the bar in everything that they do. They set it in food, and I'm a foodie, so I like food.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, they set the bar in technology. Whatever you think we have that's decent in tech right now, go there and it's 10 times better. They had something you could put on the wall, you put your iPad up to, and it will scan a whole menu. All right, like let's say you had like your logo of your police agency on the wall in Dubai, and it was kind of a prototype, but obviously them being prototype mean they just haven't launched it.
Sure.
You take your iPad up and you can literally pull up the website just by looking at the logo on the wall. You know, so they have tech like that. Their buildings, whatever you saw on the internet or seen on YouTube or anything on TV, it's not even close. Like they have multiple areas.
All those homes that are on that like palm. It looks like palm leaves, but all the homes are on it.
Correct. Ferraris, Lambos, like those cars are really everyday cars to them, which is crazy to us. Like you can go, and if you're like, oh, well, I just want to rent one, it's only like $200 a day or something like that.
That's hysterical.
If you want to say, hey, I want to drive a Lambo for the day, okay, they're renting them like that. So Dubai was a great experience on the personal level. On the business level, it was even better because what I realized with the Dubai Police Department is they're focused on officer wellness heavily. They have a whole division called the Happy Division. Literally, it's really the word happy. Like it's because they're focused on how to build their staff and how to help them grow mentally, and they want to see that. So when I see stuff like that, it lets me know that it's just not a isolated concept to Texas, Florida, or even to the U.S. It's a international idea, an international push for us to be better as law enforcement officers.
Yeah, that's that sounds like it was quite an experience. And you're over in Dubai, you have the conference. What are some key takeaways, if you don't mind me asking?
They did everything big. Meaning like as a speaker, it was a little overwhelming, not because I didn't think I could be on the same stage as other people. I think it was more of I was surprised the level of people that were there. Like you had NYPD's commissioner there, you had high-ranking officials from LAPD, but then on the other hand, you had the director of Interpol.
Sure.
But all people just walking around. So one of my takeaways was embrace the moment, meet people. Don't try to meet everybody.
Right.
Because it's almost dangerous to do that because you try to meet too many people and you lose that quality with those few people.
Sure.
But get out, explore, go to the different conferences, take theories back from other people. I had one guy, I mean, he was literally talking about like science and what was it? He was talking about like maggots. Literally, so he was a researcher on how maggots can tell how long someone's been dead or where they died at. I was like, that's pretty cool research. Now, obviously, that doesn't pertain to what I do, but on the forensics level, if that's what you are, if that's what you're interested in, that's the kind of things you can get. So be willing to network with people. I got the guy on. I have international friends now on LinkedIn.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and a lot of it was through Dubai because honestly, I was telling you before the show, John, I've been to South America, Central America, just leisure on those things. I've never been across the water like that.
Right.
16
No
hours
doubt.
from home and getting there, it was a great experience. But my big takeaway is network, but network with a purpose. Don't just try to grab business cards or talk. Actually try to understand what people do and add value to them as well, because that's just as important.
Yeah, no, that's a great takeaway. So you're back from Dubai, you're doing your thing, man. Still staying busy with your full-time job in the Federal Bureau of Corrections, right? I mean, that's got to be time consuming. And so you're carving out time to coach, mentor, speak, and with this wellness initiative. Tell me about Greatness Beyond the Badge.
So so the original presentation that I designed for that was born in the summer of 2021. Prior to that, I didn't focus a lot on self-awareness. Most of it was leadership development. And I told myself I had to try to bring something else to the table. Now, I didn't realize how important it was going to be in 2023, but I created a presentation. It was actually originally called The Invisible Law Enforcement Officer. That's kind of where the presentation started.
Okay.
And I started to get a lot of good traction on it. And then I heard this podcast, and it had the owner of the self-publishing school on the cover, and he was saying how he can get your book published in 90 days or less. When I originally wrote my book, I had no intention on writing a book. I just wanted to do the presentations. Right. I wanted to help people grow. I wanted to see people just thrive. And you know what? I love a good challenge. That's just kind of one of my I guess upsides and downsides all packaged in one. And I was like, you know what? I want to see what this is all about. So I took the challenge of 90 days or less, and I actually started writing my book in March of 2022. And then I finally finished it, and it was fully published in Amazon by July 26th of 2022. So it took about 4 months, but the whole premise of the book was focused on 3 principles: discovering who you are as a person. That's defining your failures, identifying goals, seeing some of your wake-up calls, followed by why should you develop yourself? And I think the most important part of the book in that section is having a good work-life balance, because I think all of us have fallen off the rails multiple times when it comes to realizing that we have to spend as much time with our family as we do with our job, because if we don't, when we retire, we're not going to have anybody there for us. And it's not because, and it's not because your agency is not good. It's just the agency has a goal and a mission. And once they're done with utilizing your skill set, they have to bring somebody else in. Most agencies have been around longer than us. And if they haven't been around longer than us, they're going to be around longer at the end. Yeah. So understanding that work-life balance is probably the most important part in that section. And I do talk about mentorship as well in that part, and kind of understanding your value. But then finally, a path to greatness. And I was a big Kobe Bryant fan before he passed away. I'm still his fan. Coincidentally, my 10-year-old son loves him. He's never seen him play in the game, but I think it's because he sees my passion for him. And one of the things I took from that is always being the best version of yourself every day. And how do you do that? First and foremost is time management. I think when we control our time and don't let it control us, we take ourselves to that next level. You've talked about it. I have a full-time job and a full-time business.
Right.
I wasn't able to magically increase my hours in a day. I was able to make myself have more hours in a week or the month, but I use every hour of the day. Like, I'm methodical. Like today,
you slept in today. You slept in today.
Yeah. You know what? My alarm clock actually went off at 4:15 Central Time, and I didn't get up till 4:30.
You're slacking. I'm going to call bullshit right now. You're slacking. Come on, get with the program, Mike. Come on. So you're up at 4:30, and you're not. Listen, your day's charted. You know which. There's no part of the day where you're sitting back, looking up into the sky, twiddling your thumbs, going, "What should I do now?" You know what, you attack the day like, this is what I got to do. Oh, I got John Kelly at 7:10. And you've already been up for 2 hours, 3 hours doing what you need to do for you.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
that's part of it. And what I've learned is when we control our time, we're more productive. Which,
Mhm.
yeah, I know everybody can say that, but actually having a roadmap, and in that part of my book, that's why I call it the 24-hour formula, where you take every hour of the day, including your sleep, including when
Mhm.
you eat, no matter what it is, and you plug it in there. And obviously, for the most part, most of our weeks are pretty consistent as far as at least 5 days out of the week, especially if you have a job where you work 5 days.
Mhm.
So you're able to manage that. Now on the weekends, it varies, church, not the full-time job, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
But overall, you at least can always have an idea how your day looks. And if you find yourself with a little bit of margin or extra time, work on something that builds you even more.
Right.
Because for me, my goal is to always spend 10% of my day working on myself. What does that equate to? About 2.5 hours every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's why that doesn't include exercise. That's like what I'm building up here.
Right.
Because what I've learned is if you're going to become an expert at anything, it's going to take you about 5 years. That's like a legit like concept. And I didn't realize that until, you get into a business or anything. Even let's look at law enforcement. What do we say? Rookie. Some rookies aren't really not rookies till about 5 years in or something like
Right.
that.
And that's all dependent on where you work and your call volume and what you've been exposed
Correct.
to. And you know,
Correct.
it's I like the way you framed that. Listen, you and I are in a similar space, and
Yeah.
a lot of people, Mike, have theories, but I like about you is that there's an application here. There's listen, theories are great, man. Theories are great, but theories don't get the job done. And
They
so
don't.
if I'm struggling, if I'm stuck, and we talk about my why and we talk about what I need to do for self-improvement. I went to a conference, Mike, and at the end of this speaker, um, he told a lot of war stories, which everybody's got stories, man, but I
And they're
don't know how
important.
that
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know how it makes me better just hearing the story.
Correct.
There's got to be an application.
Correct.
And his application was take care of yourself. And I looked around the room and I went, is that
How do
it?
I do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take care of yourself. All right. How about I don't know, dummy it down for me. How do I take care of me? How do I become a
Mhm.
better version of me? Oh, break my day up into 24-hour blocks where I know what I'm doing each hour.
Mhm.
That helps me be a better version of me.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mike. But for you to say, manage your time better. What, oh,
Yeah, that doesn't tell you
how do I
nothing.
do that? Help me
Mhm.
do. And so
Mhm.
what you're doing is, and you're not dummying it down, but you're identifying real sustainable ways for people to become better.
Yeah.
And
And,
that's
and it's and
needed. It's needed. I
yeah.
need you to help me. I don't know, I can't how many times, Mike, I don't know what I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know why. I don't know why
Mhm.
I am and fill in the sentence with not having a meaningful relationship at home, why I'm working so hard and I don't feel happy, why I'm working so hard and I'm not digging myself out of this hole, why I'm
Right.
and I think it's a lot like the gym and all the resources that we have available to us. They're right in front of us.
Mhm. Absolutely.
We just
That's
need
true.
somebody to clear away the smoke and the fog
Yes.
and
Or
help us
Netflix.
get
Yeah.
dialed in, right? And that's
Yeah.
what you've been doing. You're helping people get dialed in and address some of these concerns. So that action, taking action part of those principles, what are some other steps you think that, I love that 24-hour breaking the day up into 24 hours. What are
Mhm.
some other issues you see some of our first responders maybe struggling with that you address and kind of help them with?
So if we go back, and then we can keep it in my book because I try to address everything in
Yeah.
there. Is part of who you are as a person, developing your goals. Now, and when I say develop, I don't just say, "Hey, John, give me 5 goals." No, 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 no. That's too simple. That's
Right.
way too simple. Let's break these goals down, and not by 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Those are good. but let's go something more immediate, something that you can hit, because 3 years from now, we don't know what we're going to be doing. I mean, we want to have long-term goals. To me, that's a long-term goal, but we have to have things in between. And I think sometimes we miss the mark on having those certain goals out there. So for me, I like to do 6-month goal and year goals as well. So how do you do that? First, you identify your core values. Okay, what defines you? Not your agency core values, but what are your exact core values?
Your core values should not be your agency's core values.
Correct.
Quite frankly.
Or they should be something before you got into the agency. So if let's say loyalty, like for me, for example, loyalty has always been something that's been one of my core values. Like if I start a business partnership with somebody, I'm probably going to have that same person for 20 years, probably no matter what goes on. Sure. I just have a hard time breaking away from that personally. But if that's what your agency has, that's perfect. However, when we say your core values, and I tell you, there's always different things I transition in and out, and I'm always learning new techniques how to add value. So when I was at the Michigan Chiefs of Police conference a couple of days ago, it hit me like that night. I was like, you know what? I want to do a different activity to kind of talk about core values, because whenever I asked, hey, what are your core values in an open forum like that? And it was about 150, so it wasn't that big. A lot of times you don't hear anybody say anything. So I was like, you know what? This hit me. And I was so excited because I was like, why haven't I done this before? And John, if you want to use this or your listeners want to use this, when you do certain activities, trust me, feel free to use it. So I took index cards. I only had 100, so I had to get a scissors. I had to cut them up because we were in the middle of nowhere, up in Ballard, Michigan. So I took these note cards and I put a few. Well, I had one of the gentlemen assist me, and we put them on all the tables. So when we got to the core values activity, I told everybody to take a index card, write down your core value. Okay, cool. Nobody's really saying anything. I said, all right, fold it in half. Now pass it to the person to your right. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I said, all right, guys, tell me some of the core values you have. And coincidentally, I had heard answers all over the room. Sure. So one of the first things you want to do is identify your core values. But I only give that example because I thought it was a cool way to get participation.
Yeah, get people engaged. Right.
Yeah. And I've done that activity before, minus the note cards, and you only get maybe 3 or 4 people that actually give an answer. That time I probably had 20 to 30 like willingly giving me answers because it wasn't their answer to give. Yeah, they were giving it up, and they was like, oh, courage, yeah, courage, yeah. And they look at the person like, oh man, that's pretty cool. So I create that connection, but I just give that as a nugget, like, hey, presenters, use little things like that to your advantage. But going back to goal setting, first identify your core values, because before you can have a goal, you got to understand where it starts at. Next, determine the length of it. 6 months to a year is what I recommend, especially if you want to achieve them. And then you have to have developmental strategies in place. So you have to take that one goal, say, all right, I want to get it done in 6 months. Okay, what do you have to do in that 6-month time period to get there? Do you have to take a training class? Do you have to obtain a mentor? Do you have to write 50 citations? Whatever it might be.
Right, whatever the goal is.
You that's the way you're going to actually achieve that goal. So I know we have time management, but also going back to who you are, because when you're looking in that time management, well, why do you want to spend an hour on personal growth? Well, one of my goals is to become a sergeant. One of my goals is to become a better father. One of my goals is to become a better church member. Whatever that might be, you're going to have to insert into your time management to understand why you're trying to get to that point. But goal setting and actually having a plan in place, and I usually call it the personal development plan. That's kind of how I set up the goal setting. I use SMART goals, all that good stuff. But I do that because I want people to focus on their goals, not just say I have them. Actually build a plan to achieve them.
What am I doing daily to get to that place that I said I wanted to be at? Mike, what role I love, my wife will say to me, I love seeing you read. I mean, that's like, I'm accomplishing a couple things when I pick up a book and read it. What kind of what's the role reading plays in your own personal development? I mean, my office is littered with stacks of books that I'm still trying to get to, but how do you incorporate that into your daily if you do that?
Oh, I do. So for me, and I know it's kind of funny because I don't have one yet, but I'm a big audio book person. So let's say, for example, I went on like a small run yesterday. So right now on my audiobook, I had Never Finished by David Goggins. So I do a lot of my reading because I travel a lot too. So I do a lot of
Sure.
my reading through audiobooks, and I find myself doing it daily, probably 30 minutes to an hour a day at least. Now, if I'm working out or if I'm on the plane or I'm walking through the airport, maybe I'm doing a little bit longer. But audiobooks have been my friend. Um, I do have reading at night incorporated, but I will say I'm not as consistent with that because
Right.
usually by the end of my day, I am so tired.
Mm,
Usually by the
yeah.
time that time comes around, all I want to do is sleep. And I know
Sure.
that about myself. So the way I've gotten around that is with the audiobook. So
Cool.
I find myself doing audiobooks daily, and I've been amazed how many books I've been able to comprehend and finish and obviously incorporate because I don't have Never Finished in my book that I wrote, but I have Can't Hurt Me and David. And it's just I use that to build some of the things that I learn and grow on because it's crazy how many things other people have been through that you may not realize they've been through it, and then you
Right.
realize how much it relates to what you have going forward.
Yeah. We're not that unique. We're more similar
Hmm.
than we actually would ever give ourselves credit for or
Yeah,
believe that
yeah, yeah.
life experiences don't occur in a vacuum. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and it shouldn't. I mean, people been around for centuries, literally.
Yeah. Why
So
not? Why not? And history has a funny way of repeating itself. So, and I think that
mhm.
that occurs in people too, not just with governments and organizations. That we're creatures of habit, and if something was tripping somebody up, 5 years ago, you know, maybe that's the same thing that's tripping me up, and so I can learn how they adapted, overcame, what they implemented that helped them get through that, and that can help me in the real time in the present.
Yeah.
um
The only thing that separates us a lot of times from people from centuries ago is technology, but
right.
people still have emotions.
Yeah.
People still are happy. People are still sad. Some people are excited. Some people are frustrated. That doesn't really change with human emotion. I mean, I don't care how much tech we have. That's not going to change people as individuals.
No.
As far as like your natural reactions to certain things. Like sometimes we sometimes the information we get is a little too quick right now. I'm
Yeah.
not
Right.
always excited about like it's like I'm excited to get the information, but I'm not because
Right.
you see things you're like, man, if I could have waited a few more days before I found out about that. But what, regardless, emotions for everybody, no
Sure.
matter what's going on, the past, the present, even the future is going to be pretty consistent because that's how, as humans, our brains are built, is to have those emotional responses to different things going on.
Right. No, that's awesome, man. Yeah. I think that unfortunately, tech is great, and we got the current debates on the podium of AI and the threat. I think the phone has probably been one of the biggest disruptors to our connecting, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
with colleagues or at home. And we've got to figure out a way to be better with all that. For us to use tech and not tech to use us. And that's where we're at, man. Tech is overcoming and taking over our lives. And it I spoke at a conference and I talked about the phone. Put it down, have conversations with your family. And this guy lost his mind. No, but he tells me what to do with my phone, and I go, okay,
But we know the conversations at home that he has.
yeah, man. I go, simmer down, man, simmer
Yeah.
down. I go, it's just we're in some times, man. There's always something to learn, and there's always a takeaway. Hey, Mike, um, and speaking a little bit more about the book, um, if we want to get that book on Amazon,
Hmm.
and if we want to, somebody's listening, it's obviously a heavy law enforcement
Correct.
listenership. I want to bring you into the agency. I want you to speak to the troops. I like what I'm hearing. Um, I'm positive you can add value to my people. How do I get in touch with you if I'm a training director or an
Mhm.
agency leader, or how does that happen? How does that take place?
The easiest, and I actually just started incorporating this into my presentations. I put a QR code that if you scan it, it goes directly to my email. I was another epiphany I had while in Michigan. I was like, why not just create a QR code that gets people, so when they scan it, it's not going to my website, it's not going to social media, it goes directly to me. So same thing I'm going to say right now is the best way to get to me, because I do check my emails daily, is just get me at michael@michaeladlaitler.com.
Okay.
That's
And
the best way.
I'll put that information in the show notes,
Correct.
definitely. And we'll be able to reach out to you and find out more about what you're offering, some of your services, the book, speaking engagements,
Correct.
and all that good stuff. Mike, if there was something, I've got guys and gals, either they're on their way home or they're rolling into work, and they're like, oh, this is great. This guy's been doing this thing for over 20 years, and he's got all these other things going on. What's some words you'd like to leave them or give them from your shop to theirs that might help them through some of the things that they got going on in their own personal lives? Some words of wisdom that you could pass on to the troops.
In one sentence that's going to have a comma in it, I'm going to say, you control your time, don't let it control you. And that's been one of the things I've had to learn throughout my 18 years of professional experience, my 37 years as a human, is control your time and execute on what you're doing. Don't just talk about you're going to do something. And that's in every aspect of life, but actually execute and implement, because if you're not executing, we're not professors in the sense of we don't have theories that we're trying to give out there. We actually have to go out there and get it. Like, John, you and I met through LinkedIn. We both are go-getters. You have this podcast. I mean, we go out there as speakers, we have to go get it. So as a person, take everything back. Like, even my son, like, I make intentional time for him. I execute on my time management. I don't just write it down on a piece of paper and say, okay, let's see if it magically happens. Because I took that approach my first 15 years in law enforcement, my first 15 years in the professional environment, and I achieved things. I got things here and there, but when I started to execute on my time management, I'm running past people, literally, like people I shouldn't run past, because I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best speaker, I'm the most talented person, I'm the best writer, because I'm not. But where I thrive, it's execution. And I believe that with the right execution for anything that we're doing in our lives, we're going to succeed. So take that. Let's take it. If you want to take away from the profession, take it in your family life. Execute on being a better father. Execute on being a better spouse. Execute on being a better son, or whatever child, whatever it might be. And that's how you're going to get better. And everything else is going to be easier, because although I've been through a divorce, hey, it sucks. But I would be married again. So I don't want to take that away from anybody that's married or thinking about it. But I understood that there was things in my life that I had to get better at. And
how about
to show
that?
my son, I'm a good father. I didn't have my father growing up. I'm like, hey, he's going to know who his dad is. Right. He's not going to be wondering, oh, my dad would. No. He knows if he has something going on, he assumes I'm going to be there. Like when I'm not there, he's like, why weren't you there? He's not surprised when I show up to things. He's not surprised when we have me and him days. Like, he thought we were going to have 3 days in a row like that. He was like, can we do a me and you day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday? I said, I got to do some work on Monday. He was like, oh, okay. Because I made it to the point to where he assumes we're going to be together. Right. And that's part of time management. I'm up before him right now, because I know that once he gets rolling, it's more about him than it is about me.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But it's about time management and executing that. I think once we're able to do that in all aspects of our life, we're happier, we're more fulfilled, and what we thought we couldn't do, we can do.
Dude, I love that, man. That you hit the nail on the head, man. Everybody's got a plan. Plan's useless unless you execute it. That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Laidler. Mike, thanks for your time this morning, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, John, I appreciate it. And obviously you have a great podcast, and whoever's listening, make sure if you're not subscribed, you follow and make sure you check out all his material because he's a speaker like me and he's ready to come speak at your place.
That's awesome, Mike. Thanks, brother.